Anime versus manga has always been a controversial subject, but I'm not sure why. So before I get started, this channel is about anime and video games, so if you like that, make sure to subscribe. So, 99% of the time, when getting into anime, people will tell you the manga is better, which is true in many cases, but not all. Some anime surpass the manga counterpart, since there are some anime which really struggle to convey the same tone as the manga counterpart, like Berserk 2016 and 2017. But again, that's not for all anime. Some anime are surprisingly amazing in comparison to the manga counterpart. I hear you asking, what's the difference between anime and manga? First of all, what is anime? Anime is an informal or shortened way of saying animation. It's pronounced a-ni-me. That's the most authentic way of saying it, since anime is often tied with Japanese animation. When people say anime in Japan, it can refer to any type of animation, be it Western or Asian. But in the West, when anime is mentioned, it has us only think about Japanese animation. Japanese animation has a unique look, and you can generally tell straight away if it's an anime or not. Generally, Japanese animation are animated because their source material, manga, has reached a certain point of popularity. Creators now have the funds to put it into a studio. Bearing in mind, not all anime are made like this. Sometimes there is no manga to the anime. Producing an anime is a giant undertaking. It can take from a dozen to hundreds of people to pump out a series. Anime caters to all audiences, regardless of age, and it has different types of genres, such as mecha, horror, action, adventure, comedy, romance, and the list goes on. Now that we've talked about anime, what is manga? The manga definition could literally be whimsical drawing in Japanese, but it's simply a Japanese comic book. Japanese comic books / manga are generally black and white. This could put a lot of people off. However, some people prefer it this way because it gives off a unique tone and vibe. Japanese comic books as well as anime cater to all audiences, no matter age or gender. Just like anime, manga has different categories like mecha, science fiction, horror, action, adventure, comedy, romance, and the list goes on. Unlike the rest of the world, Japanese comics has a giant popularity in Japan, and in recent years grown tremendously across to the West. Many of us are within 4 hours reach of reaching a place which sells Japanese comic books. Fun fact, Japan's comics are read from the right side of the book. So, should you watch the anime first or go straight into the manga? Well, this depends and it's completely subjective. Some people enjoy reading first, and others enjoy watching first. So ask yourself, do I like my entertainment absorbed through reading or watching? The conclusion you come to will be your best bet. However, we can all agree that most of the time the manga ends up being better than the anime, so it makes sense to watch the anime first and then read the manga because it's generally the most authentic version. If you read the manga first, you might not enjoy the animation. On the other hand, if you watch the animation first and then move on to the manga, your feeling of being entertained only increases. Again, this is subjective and you may not feel the same way. Make sense? I was reading a forum post on this matter and one user said, "Yeah, I always watch the adaptation before I read the manga. I'll do the same with movies and books. If I read the source material first, it can often taint my view of the adaptation. It can take many years to produce an animation and pump out the full story. So, you might want to read the manga first as well as waiting for episodes to be released." Big chunks of content we see in Japanese comic books can be completely skipped over by its adaptation, like with Berserk. It missed out on a lot of the fairy arc. So keep this in mind. Typically, anime episodes will last 24 minutes. Comic books, on the other hand, depends on your reading and speed, and how much time you take to look at the manga artwork. Anime versus manga fights. You'll find this very interesting. There are specific areas where animation can do a better job, and that is with fight scenes. Having an animation series, you can produce fight scenes with unimaginable magnitude. One Punch Man is a great example of this. Saitama vs Boros was a fight with incredible magnitude, fighting on Earth, giant spaceships and getting blasted to the moon. Although the manga really does a fantastic job of making this fight what it is, the anime took it a few steps further. It was one of the best fights we've ever had the pleasure of seeing. The animation version of course had a giant advantage because manga is limited to a few frames per page, and animation has literally thousands of frames in minutes. Animation also has the capability of music and sound effects, which gives us a surge of energy when watching this fight. It's the same with Bleach animated series. I've watched hundreds of episodes and then switched to the manga series. One of the things I liked with its animated counterpart was it gave me a default feel of how Hollow should sound. and when reading the manga and seeing text for the hollow screams, instantly sounds from the anime came rushing to my head. That's something manga of course cannot do because you can't get sound effects from manga. And again, this is completely subjective. You may prefer the manga fight with Saitama vs Boros, or how you thought hollows would sound in Bleach. In conclusion, the anime versus manga debate doesn't make sense. It's completely subjective. Go with whichever one you like. Anime series certainly have a bigger advantage because of features like music, which makes us feel different ways, dramatic fight scenes with Dragon Ball Z, Bleach, and the list goes on. But manga also has its advantages, like being able to create more content with no need for giant expenditure. Writers are able to express whatever they like without worrying if people will like it. With manga, there are no restrictions or censorships in order to express their work. There are pros and cons for both sides. Enjoy them both. Take a dive into both sides and see which one you like best. And there doesn't have to be a favorite if you don't want. If you enjoyed this video and like these types of videos, make sure to subscribe. Also, if you want to read my blog version of this topic, I will leave a link in the description below.